That's good. A few late arrivals there, which is good. Hope everyone's doing okay after a bit of a strange, rattly morning around Melbourne this morning. So that's what we've been talking about for the last 10 or 15 minutes as we were waiting, that's for sure. So hope everyone's doing okay. A few frights around the place, but all in all, no major damage done, it seems, thus far. Okay, so let me kick us off more formally. Welcome to our waste levy and waste mass balance session today. Before we kick off, I'd like to acknowledge Aboriginal people as the first peoples and traditional custodians of the land and water on which we live, work and depend, and pay my respect to Aboriginal elders past and present. As Victoria's environmental regulator, we pay our respect to how country has been protected and cared for by Aboriginal people over many tens of thousands of years, and we recognise the unique spiritual and cultural significance of land, water and all that is in the environment, and the continuing connection and aspirations for country of Aboriginal people and traditional custodians. So next slide, please, folks. Thanks. So for those who weren't at the start, that's who I am. I'm Mark Rossiter, Executive Director of Reg Standards and Enforcement here at EPA Victoria. Next slide, thanks, folks. And this is a quick look through the agenda, which is kind of an agenda in two halves, if you like. So what we'll specifically focus on today is key changes to the previous landfill levy with the introduction of the new Act. We'll be introducing you to the new EPA portal and walking you through the processes that will be used within that portal. And then we'll shift to mass balance, give you an overview of waste mass balance, including the consultation process we'll be going through in relation to that. And we'll walk you quickly through the waste mass balance reporting template. So there'll be plenty of opportunity today to ask questions. If we could try and keep our questions focused on the subject matter today, we're always available to talk to you about any other things that you'd like to talk about. But as we're having a session today that's very focused on levy and very focused on mass balance, if we could try and keep our questions restricted, sort of bracketed within those areas today, would be appreciated. But as always, just reach out to us afterwards if you've got something else that you'd like to talk about. During some basic housekeeping stuff. So during the presentations, your microphones will be disabled as we're presenting, and then during the Q&A sessions, we'll enable all those microphones again. That's just to make it easier with a larger group. If, however, you do have a question that you'd like to raise whilst the microphones are turned off, you can just put it into the chat function and we'll pick up that question as we're going along. We will respond directly as much as we can. If we don't have the ability to respond or respond well with you today, what we might do is just come back to the group after the fact, but no questions will go unaddressed, I suppose, is where I'd leave that. Also, we will be recording the session today, so if there are folks who are not able to join us today, or if you'd like a reminder yourself, we'll record the session and we'll put it on our website, so it's available to watch after the fact if you want to revisit something that we touch on today. So look, from me again, welcome. I'm delighted that you're all able to join us today. It's lovely to have an opportunity to interact and meet with many of you whom I certainly haven't met everyone on the call. So look forward to the conversations and questions that we have today. So look, without further ado from me, thank you again for being here, and I will hand you over now to Dan Hunt, who is our Director of Regulatory Programs. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Mark. So as Mark just said, I'm the Director of Regulatory Programs at EPA Victoria, and I'm responsible for administrating waste levy. So as you know, Victoria's new environment protection laws commenced on the 1st of July this year. I won't spend too much time on this slide, given you should already be aware of these changes, but I thought it would be useful to just give a brief recap. The new laws focus on the prevention of environmental harm occurring. New responsibilities exist for anyone who conducts an activity that might have an impact on the environment or human health. These new laws are based on what's known as the General Environmental Duty, or the GED. The commencement of the Act also includes important changes that waste and resource recovery facilities must comply with in order to meet the requirements of law. As mentioned today, we'll be focusing in on two specific areas, being landfill levy, now known as waste levy, and the new waste mass balance requirements. So this slide shows some key changes to landfill levy, which under the new Act is now known as waste levy. The Environment Protection Act and the Environment Protection Regulations introduced changes to the waste levy program from the 1st of July 2021. These key changes are that landfill is now known as waste levy statements, including any allowable rebate, must now be submitted quarterly instead of annually. You can also request an adjustment at any time after your quarterly statement has been submitted, and EPA can also initiate an adjustment at any time. All statement submissions and adjustments will be managed through the new EPA portal, which Katrina will be taking you through in a moment. So please make sure you've registered for the EPA portal if you haven't already done so. Your details won't be migrated across from our old portal. The statutory timeframe for waste levy payment is 64 business days after the end of the relevant period for which the waste levy was calculated. The waste recovery rebate can only be claimed for waste transferred for the resource recovery within 3 months of the waste being received. The rules around what you can claim have also changed, so priority waste that is soil is no longer an allowable rebate. And finally, levy rates, which are set by a Victorian government, not set by EPA, have changed, which brings us into closer alignment with our interstate counterparts. You can find out more about rates on our website, and links will be given at the end of the presentation. The Environment Protection Act states that waste levy is payable when waste is received at the landfill. So this is a change from the previous legislation, which stated that landfill levy was payable for waste that was deposited onto land. So very different change there. This means that waste levy is payable for all waste received at the landfill, regardless of where it is deposited within the landfill premises. This change particularly impacts landfills that have a co-located transfer station. So transfer station operations that are located at landfills need to apply for an A13 permission as soon as possible through the EPA portal. Waste received at a transfer station on sites that have a licence, permit or registration as an A13 scheduled activity are then not subject to waste levy. EPA will soon commence a landfill sector licence review process, so you should keep an eye out for that. And you can also find out more information about the types of permissions on our website, and there's also a link in the email that you were sent last week. I'll now hand over to Katrina Harris as a member of our EPA Waste Levy team, who's going to take you through the new EPA portal, how to submit a statement and how to manage adjustments. Over to you, Katrina.
Thank you, Dan, and good morning all. I'm Katrina Harris, and as Dan mentioned, I will take you through how to navigate the Waste Levy dashboard for the new portal, as well as the details of adjustments. So for this demonstration, I will just share my screen. Okay. So to begin, you'll need to start off by going to our website, epa.vic.gov.au, and select portal. So some of you may already be aware of this process already, but just a reminder for those that have yet signed up, the contact person, the nominated contact person and the liable signatory must sign up before 1st of October in order to view the statements. I did send a reminder email yesterday. So again, if you have yet responded and provided those email address and contact details, if you could do so as soon as possible, that would be great. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I will be using a test environment. So to begin, you need to just sign in. So I will first sign in as a contact person, and then I'll log in as the liable person. So once you've logged in, you'll need to click on Manage Waste and then select Waste Levy. Once you come to the Waste Levy dashboard, because I am using test environment, you will see many records. However, when you log in for the first time from the 1st of October, you'll only you will only see the Q1 statement. And as time goes on, you will be able to view previous statements. So just to take you through what you will see on the Waste Levy dashboard, you will see the statement ID of the applicable statement and the reporting period, the permission ID, the permission holder, and the place or premises, the period start and end date, the payment due date, which is calculated 64 business days from your period end date, the statement status, payment status, and the invoice amount. With the statement status, there are 5 statuses that may appear on your dashboard. So you may see new, which requires action for submission, draft, so you've saved a copy and will come back to it at a later stage to submit, submitted for approval for sign off, submitted to EPA, and adjusted. So to begin, I'll take you through how to submit your statement. And again, because there's so many records, I've prepared a bank statement here, which you can just select asterisk and the statement ID and select enter. So in the right-hand arrow, by selecting it, there are 3 options: edit statement, in this case, view adjustments not applicable, or I can view the statement. By selecting edit statement, you will then be brought to the first page where you'll be required to start your statement. So there are 5 pages, with the first page being waste received declaration. So this page is where you will be required to declare the municipal, industrial, and priority waste received at your premises during the relevant reporting period. So as you scroll down, again, you will see the statement period and the due date. So the first section is declaring your municipal and industrial waste. So by selecting no, you may proceed to the next question. However, if you did receive waste, municipal or industrial waste, you select yes. So you'll have the opportunity to declare the waste categories and the amounts with each relevant section. Where there is an asterisk, you must complete the field. For example, if no municipal waste was received, I would simply enter 0. In this case, I will put in some data. And then for industrial waste, you have the opportunity to be able to separate the construction and demolition and commercial and industrial waste by selecting yes. So the total industrial waste will be auto-calculated for the total amount. So that is a feature that you will be able to see as you proceed with your statement. The next question is priority waste. So by going through the questions, you will select the appropriate answer. So let's just say package waste was received. And for priority waste, so this will cover your soil containing asbestos, Cat B waste, your soil and other, Cat C soil and other, and Cat D. So if you're happy with all the data that you have entered, then you may proceed to the next page by selecting Save and Next. So the second page will be the waste received explanation. So just to let you know, all the questions remain the same as the previous statement. So I'll quickly go through it. So if you are aware of any regional influences, and you select yes, you must provide an explanation. So in this case, I'll say no. Again, if you are aware of any site-related factors, you must explain, and so forth with total waste quarterly trend. So the third step is for your ministerial waste levy waivers, your allowable rebate claims, and if you wish to claim cover rebate. So just to quickly go through ministerial waste levy, if any waste was received under a waiver, you'd select yes. You'd then be required to provide the government gazette number, the purpose, and complete the relevant waste category fields and quantity. I will select no. And then that brings us to the next question. If you wish to claim a rebate for municipal and industrial waste. So by selecting yes, you do wish to claim a rebate, then you'll be required to fill in the appropriate fields. So I'd just like to point out in this section that you will have an opportunity to claim for a rebate for the previous quarter, as long as the waste was received within 3 months and then transferred to a recovery facility. So for example, if any waste was received during Q1 and then transferred for recovery, I would enter the tonnages here. If waste was received, for example, towards the end of Q4, so end of June, but then transferred to a recovery facility sometime in July, then I would put in my tonnages for my rebate in this field. And so you'll have the opportunity to claim a rebate, if applicable, for municipal, industrial, and fill material in this section. Because I'm claiming municipal waste, I must enter 0 value in the other fields. And the same for priority waste. If you wish to claim a rebate for category B waste and category C waste, you will fill in the details as relevant here. In this case, I will say no. And then the last box here, if you wish to claim a cover rebate for the reporting period, you must tick the box. If you don't tick the box and by accident, then please contact EPA, and that way we can do an adjustment for you to be able to claim that cover rebate. I'd also like to point out that you will notice that the subtotals are not auto-calculated as it did in the previous report. So once the statement has been submitted, you will receive the statement in the PDF form, which will have the subtotals calculated. So I'll proceed to the next page. So this brings you to attachments. So for example, if you did claim an allowable rebate claim and you need to provide, well, you do need to provide your supporting evidence, then you must attach your documents here. So I'll just like to show you an example. When you're attaching attaching your documents, to make sure you click upload file. If not, then the documents won't come through to EPA. You may be asked at a later stage to provide it. So that brings you to the last step. So this is just a summary of all the details that you have provided. If you're happy with it and no changes, then you can proceed and send it off for a liable person to approve the statement. If not, then you've got the back button to go back and make any changes. So I will send this off for approval. And on the dashboard, the status will be updated to submitted for sign-off. So I'll just log out and I'll log in as a liable person now. Okay, so again, manage waste and waste levy. So the waste levy dashboard for a liable person is slightly different to the primary contact. For any pending statements that require action, they will appear in the top section as displayed here. So as a liable person, when you click on the action field, action button, you'll see 3 options. So you can either view and submit the statement, edit the statement, so make an amendment to the tonnages or the data submitted, or you can reject the statement. So by rejecting the statement, you're welcome to leave comments, rejection comments, and then hit reject. What will happen then is the document will then, the contact person will be notified via email that they need to complete the statement again. Just go back and view statement. So for this example, as a liable person, I trust that my contact person has filled in all the correct details and I'm happy to submit the statement to EPA. So you will be required to select the declaration box that you're satisfied with all the information. And then at this point, you can submit the statement just by typing in your full name and your position and your signature. So you no longer need to download the form, sign, and then attach before submission. So I'll pop up for confirmation. I'm happy to submit. So shortly after statement submission, you will receive an email, both the contact person and the liable person. That will include the PDF statement, as well as the invoice amount, whether a refund is required, a credit refund, or if a balance is required for payment. It does take a few moments for the invoice amount to appear, but this should shortly come up. The second part that I'd like to also walk you through is if an adjustment has taken place against a statement. So for this example, you will see that the status, that the statement has been adjusted. And to view those adjustment details, you'd go to the right-hand arrow, select View Adjustments, which will then bring you to the waste levy adjustments. So when an adjustment takes place, you'll also receive a copy via email. Otherwise, you can view it through the portal. So to view further details, by selecting the View Adjustment Details section, you'll be able to see exactly what has changed for that particular waste levy statement, and then the total amount, whether it's a debit or credit. And that comes to an end of my waste levy portal demonstration. Thank you.
Great. Hi, everybody. This is Matt here. Thanks, Katrina, for that. Really appreciate it. Apologies, my video's coming on. Can everybody just double check you can see and hear me? I think so. Okay. Look, we got some great questions in the chat there. A couple answers provided as well. We have a little time set aside now to have some discussion and answer some of those questions with our, content program area people here and staff. I think we might just go down looking at, I'm going to just quickly scroll back up. We saw a couple questions. We might just start from the top there. Now, apologies if I get your name wrong here. Lyle Bond posed the question, how does the waste levy apply to sites which are landfills and also have a composting operation on site? It's a really good question there, Lyle.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one, Matt, if you like. Thanks, Lyle, for your question. It is a good question. So it would depend on whether it's a processing operation through composting, so through anaerobic or anaerobic processes, or whether in fact it's solely a transfer station. So composting through anaerobic or aerobic processes is an AO7 scheduled activity. Whereas a transfer station operation is an A13 scheduled activity. So if it's AO7, my suggestion for you would be to contact our permissions area, because you will need a permission for that composting process. And we would have to look at treating that similar to how we're treating the A13 category with those on-site activities. So A13 categories for transfer stations, we have put out some comms. Hopefully you've all seen a previous letter that I signed and circulated stating that any landfill that had a transfer station, i.e. an A13 permission, would not be required to pay levy, provided that they had that A13 permission for the on-site component, and that they had documented processes to show that the material going into that site and then out of that site, where it crossed back over the weighbridge, if there was any residual material to be deposited to the landfill, would then be subject to levy. Hopefully that makes sense. And thanks for the question, Lyle. That was a really good one.
Yeah, very good. Gets into the nuance there. I think, Dan, that if depending on your operation, you might have some slight variance other than just a templated approach here. So best bet is always get in contact with EPA if you do have this sort of detailed questions in particular for your operations. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Look, I think that's a great segue to a question that Jeff McKinnon posed. And I think you might have answered it there, but maybe if you just want to kind of reiterate the point there, he posed a question. If a transfer station is on the same parcel of land as a landfill, but the landfill area is separately fenced and licensed, is an A13 permission required?
Yeah, you would have to go through and look at the A13 schedule in the regulations. So there's A, B and C requirements under Schedule A13. So Jeff, if it's outside the landfill, if it's outside the permissioned area of the landfill, you still may require a license, permit or registration for that activity. You need to go and look at that section of the regulations to look at the specific criteria around volumes and storage and what's being received at that transfer station to form a view about whether that activity requires an A, B or C permission.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Hopefully that clears that up for you, Jeff. Great. We're just going to go down through the order of the questions here posed while we have a good chunk of about a few more minutes here to go through this. Simon Clay asked a kind of procedural question around the actual application form around why have you put a tick box to claim the cover rebate? Kind of posed it that, framed that imagining all landfills will want to claim this, so it should be an automatic. I think put that to our panel. I think that's more of a design process question there.
It is. I'm Alison Medhurst. I've been working on developing the new waste levy reporting system. So that question comes to me. Essentially, there is a the correct particular wording of the Act is that landfills may choose to claim cover rebate. So we made it optional. If everyone is claiming it, we can always look at making that a default yes into the future. But for the moment, we're setting that up as a you may opt in to, and most of you will opt in to claim cover rebate.
Thanks, Alison, for explaining that. Yeah, like one of our experiences with building a lot of these tools are really to support the letter of the law as they're stated in the regulations. So the slight nuance in use for everything, you know, we'll be analyzing that intelligence over time and have a look if there's a need to you know, reshift some of the words. But we very much built it to be mirror what the regulations state. Thanks for that, Alison. Appreciate it. Let's see, and Jeff, you posed a question that I think was answered in the chat around the rebate percent quantities, how they're calculated. Hopefully that answer suffices there. The next question, just going down the chat list, was posed by Sarah O'Connor. Posed, isn't clean fill now levied at the industrial levy rate? And added, and are we only getting a municipal levy rebate? Thanks, Lee. I think you might be able to help out with that one. Just unmute, buddy.
Yep, that's correct. I pasted a response in the chat there. It's defined as industrial waste. It attracts the industrial waste levy. It's rebatable per the Act. Sorry, the regulation at the municipal rate. That is a change. Previously, it was through guidance. It attracted the municipal rate and was rebated at the municipal rate.
Thanks, Lee, just for reiterating that point there. Excellent. Let's see. I think, and Daniel, you posted a number of good questions here. I think just double checking that's not been answered yet. It looks like Daniel 5 posted, is there a reason why we do not see the calculated invoice before completion of submission? Probably again, another, how does the system work type question here.
I'm not sure whether, Lee, you were going to jump back in on that one. At the moment, we don't have the facility to do that. So it does require a little bit of calculation in the background in our current system, but you will get the invoice within an hour of submission. So it's almost instant, but it is a little bit delayed.
The fine tuning.
Can I speak, Matt? The challenge with that is that if you once you make the submission, generally you could check the number before you hit submit or ask the CEO to submit. So without being able to check the numbers against our own internal calcs, you hit submit. If the invoice comes back, you need an adjustment. Does that circle us back through the adjustment process where I've got to ask the CEO not only to approve it, but to submit an adjustment?
In theory, yes. I guess the calculation, you know, provided your tonnages are correct, that essentially you can keep your own calculation if you like. Lee, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I've got nothing to add to that. The system, the algorithm within the portal doesn't change. It is static, so it ought to reflect your own calculations. But that is correct, Daniel. If error was made, that it would need to go through an adjustment.
Look, like that's probably one that I'd imagine just post potentially if we experience that happening a lot, we might look into it, you know, as needing some type of a look at it.
Yeah, I might just jump in there. Hello, Daniel. How are you?
Good, thanks, Mark.
Good, Matt. Good. I so it sounds like there's a preference for that, Daniel. It's a system build thing, obviously, but if there's a preference for that, I think we can, and if it starts manifesting itself into needless sort of extensive adjustment stuff, then we can certainly talk about that in terms of the sort of short to medium term priorities around what we'd like to see. So happy to talk about. Obviously, it's not a stroke of a pen. It's not a form. It's part of the system build. But if there's a very strong preference for that, then we can talk about that offline. Not want to fix here and now in the meeting, I guess, but certainly we'll take it on board and stick it on our list you're very familiar with. And I put it that way to you.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Yeah, for other people in the room, we've been engaging with industry over a variety of interaction points around the new laws and regulations, and have a bit of a watch list for system improvements. And this work will kind of go onto that radar as well, for sure.
Yeah, and I might just say, actually, while we're speaking to this crew, and I'm sorry to hog the microphone here, folks, but Daniel does a very good job with his Aloha hat on it, providing representation for this group. So whilst we're not directly interacting with everybody all the time, Daniel and his crew are not backwards in coming forwards in terms of presenting industry perspectives in relation to something. So we always appreciate that from you, Daniel. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Added a bit of information for everybody there. All right. Just cognizant, we have about, I think, a little bit more time to go through for questions. A little bit here. We'll just keep going through. So Joshua Russell posed a question that's more so around, I guess, around the actual policy itself, with the policy hats on. What is the logic behind charging the industrial levy for cover material, but only rebating it at the municipal rate? Impose that, is it intended to drive operators to using alternative cover methods? It's a good question. Thanks, Joshua.
Yes, that's right. To incentivize both alternative cover methods and less daily cover.
Great answer. Thanks, Lee. Yes, so, intended purpose there is to look for those alternates, I think. We're going to keep going through the list here. Shirley, sorry, I hopefully got your name right. And this is kind of into the mulching question here again, area. We currently take mulch, which is levy exempt, as it's utilized as remediation cover material. Does this get entered under waste used for levy exempted activities? So sounds like it's a question of inputting information into the system here, getting the right category and entry point to the system, if I got that right.
So waste used for legitimate levy exempted activities is not submitted with the quarterly levy statements.
Excellent. Okay. So it sounds like that one's already way to go. Yeah, we have quite a few of the organics question coming in. This great. Another one posted by Kylie Douglas here is green guard material that is received in mulch at a landfill site subject to the levy. Given it was received to a landscaping place, it would be levy exempt. It is being processed in exactly the same way into a final product. Dan, you might have touched on that on your earlier question around the composting operations there.
Yeah, I'd have a similar response. It depends on whether it's a transfer station or an organics facility that's being received to. Any material that's not going to an A13 or an A07 scheduled category would therefore have to be weighed at the weighbridge. And if it is then exempt through our guidance, then a rebate claimed on that material.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. So again, it comes down to the what permission does your facility have? Going with. Let's see, another good one from Daniel here. Just going down the list, we have a fair bit of time here to go through until I kind of get told we'll stop on the questions. These are great. We want to make sure we get as much answers to you as possible, which is what this forum is about today. So Thank you for everybody being upfront with these great questions. So Daniel posed the next one. I don't think we've answered this. While the application for the registration for an on-site transfer station shows approved on my dashboard, where does the actual approval go? Do you want to maybe talk us through that real quickly, Daniel?
Yeah, I've been using the portal quite a lot. I've made a lot of registrations for Hanson sites in for return concrete, and the applications, because there's no fee, it's an automatic thing, shows up as approved on my dashboard in my portal, but I don't actually have ability to download the approval document.
Gotcha.
And I did notice that one went to our company secretary for one of them, so I was wondering, I've asked him to provide me what he's got, but just also where I can download the actual approvals once they're available through the portal.
So it's a kind of based in a theme of records keeping area, the question really. Yep.
My understanding is, Daniel, that they're emailed out to the key contact on the application. They're not currently available on the portal.
Okay, so if the company has multiple users, could it be possible that it defaults to one key contact rather than the actual registered portal user? So I had 15 people in our organisation using your portal. Is it only going to default to one person for all the records?
It will default to the applicant, the primary applicant, on the application itself.
Oh, okay, because I've been making them and I haven't been getting them. Okay, thank you.
If you wanted to follow up, we can check where those are at and make sure that if they haven't been emailed out, it could be an error that the system has missed them.
I'll send request for the permissions. Is that okay?
That would be great. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll follow up on that, Daniel. There might be, you know, not necessarily a perfect world. We're almost there yet, but little bugs are still here and there. So you might have helped us identify one. Thanks, appreciate it. Let's see. Okay, so we got two kind of double thumbs up around the seeing the you know, figures before the submission. So kind of, you know, to Mark's point, we've noted that. Thank you, Joshua and Kylie. Appreciate that. So we have a question around what levy applies to packaged asbestos. Good question here. Joshua posed, our license was altered to allow the receival of commercial asbestos. Supposing, you know, kind of trying to get waste classification and categories here for levy purposes, what levy applies to packaged asbestos?
Packaged waste asbestos levy rate in this financial year is $30.96 per tonne, and it's in Schedule 2, Table 2 of the 2017 Act.
Excellent. Good reference point, Lee. Appreciate that. Getting down to the final questions here. Let's see, just kind of scrolling down. Okay, Jeff McMinnon poses a good one here. Thanks, Jeff. You've had some great questions for us today. It's putting forward that they have been advised, he thinks by EPA, that they could audit the amount of waste in their transfer station bins and split the levy payment rates into a percentage based by municipal and industrial if we could demonstrate the amount of waste in the bin that was from the municipal sources, coming from the perspective of a small rural council. So great question, Jeff, and thanks for bringing that perspective of, you know, some of the smaller operators to the table as well, because you'd be representative of quite a big sector, actually.
The EPA webinar on
Sorry, Jeff, it just might get you to speak closer, that your microphone kind of breaking up just a little bit on us. Potentially, maybe, Jeff, you might, if I'm just kind of, you know, thinking ahead for you, don't want to put words in your mouth, but in that webinar, we talked around how you can't combine in mixed waste types. So kind of in that area, we can't then separate them out.
I'm Sarah O'Connor from Mildura Rural City Council. We do the same thing. So with our curbside rubbish collection, we collect commercial curbside bins along with residential. So based on the number of tenements, a percentage is how we calculate how much of that is to be levied at the industrial rate versus municipal. So I'm assuming that's what Jeff's getting at as well.
Yeah, well, it wasn't actually me speaking before. It was someone else speaking about. It wasn't in relation to that question, but
Gotcha.
our understanding is that all transfer bin waste is classified as industrial waste, and we sought some advice on whether we could audit the bins and split it into municipal waste for the payment of the levy. And I thought we got advice from EPA that we could do that if we audited the bins, but from the curbside point of view, I didn't think that was an option. I guess I'm just wondering whether transfer station bins are all industrial waste no matter what you do, or is the advice that we've received okay?
So if I understand correctly, it's true that curbside bins is municipal waste. Once it's received or processed at a transfer station, it becomes industrial waste, but the municipal waste levy rate still applies when that's sent on to for the waste that is subsequently sent on to landfill.
Yeah, so I'm talking about waste delivered by customers that don't have curbside services or whatever. They bring their municipal waste into the transfer station. Goes into a transfer bin.
If it's originally municipally waste sourced, the municipal rate applies, but it becomes industrial waste as it passes through the transfer station. And so the A13 licenses and permits have tailored waste codes for these waste streams so that it can be tracked.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lee. Appreciate that. Look, we have time. Yeah, great questions, everybody. And there might be a couple, two lagging, reiterating points around some procedural stuff we'll look to get to later. But also notice, Lyle, you have your hand up. So great to get a live question if that's still a hand up.
Yeah, it certainly is. I guess I just wanted to touch on that transfer station one because it is quite important. And at Corangamite, we have been provided that same advice that we can receive the waste and determine whether it's industrial or municipal levy. And then as long as we keep that evidence, that's how we split it out for when it goes over the landfill weighbridge. But it is important to clarify whether that still will be honoured moving into the new system.
Yeah, the answer is yes. If it's originally municipally sourced, the municipal rate applies. You just need to track it.
Yeah, record keeping becomes important there. So, you know, if a compliance question were to come up, Lyle, you know, you can just point to the records of that source of material and, you know, appropriate calculations and everything to be like, yep, that's that. Makes it pretty clear. Great, thanks everybody. Look, that's sort of coming to the end of our Q&A time on waste levy questions. But if you have any additional questions, I know a lot of times I'll have additional questions, you know, based on answers or even later tonight. Please feel free to keep putting them in the chat as we go along. But I think we're going to segue into our next section there, though. But that was hopefully provided a lot of clarity, some of those really sticky ones, especially around the municipal and industrial levy. So thanks for that. Appreciate it. Then we're just going to hand over to Lee. He's going to talk around he's going to talk us through the mass waste mass balance stuff now. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, Matt. If I can have the next slide. So good morning, everyone. My name's Lee Mowat. I'm team leader of industry at EPA. I oversee 6 programs and waste levy is one of them. We've done a lot of work over recent years preparing for the new legislative framework. With respect to waste levy, most of that work has been internal facing, but there are some external facing pieces that you may have seen, and waste mass balance reporting is one of them. So we've long recognised the need for the authority, EPA, to have greater oversight of waste movements on site at landfills, as well as the fate of waste at landfills. And you all know that there are, under the old Act and still under the 2017 Act, rebatable levy activities, and we receive supporting information demonstrating that those materials were recycled in the case of the recycling rebate. And of course, the daily cover rebate is a flat 15% on total waste now received. Hasn't changed really from the old to the new, but of course, there are permitted waste uses at landfills that are exempt from levy. They're generally operational construction uses. They're detailed in publication 332.8, recently updated in July, I think. And information pertaining to the waste that's used for those purposes is not reported to us through the waste levy statement submissions. Indeed, even if or when your sites are selected for waste levy audit, data on waste used for those purposes is essentially just stated matter-of-factly. So it's a blind spot. We're not able to interrogate it. We don't even know, with respect to the virgin materials that are purchased expressly for the purpose of operational matters, versus the waste used for those same operational matters. We don't know the makeup. And so that's the genesis of the waste mass balance reporting. You should have all received yesterday the draft guideline, the consultation document, and the associated waste mass balance template. We hope you'll find that we've designed it to be as simple to use as possible, whilst still adequately capturing the complex operations at your landfills, and indeed the diverse operations across your landfills. And so we're keen on your feedback. We've already tabled it, consulted with 4 diverse landfills, and that helped us identify some of the, I'll say, minor issues in the initial draft. Once implemented, we'll use the data that we get through this to complement other data sources. So the now 4 quarterly levy statement submissions and the supporting information, as well as our increasing use of drones for volumetric surveys, and of course, information we will get through the redesigned audits that we'll be doing going forward. And so collectively, speaking to this slide, these data sets will help us verify that appropriate levies are paid, each tonne of waste is accounted for, and it also supports demonstrating compliance with some of the duties in the 2017 Act. Now, on the next slide, please. So we're consulting now. We sent it out yesterday. If you've got questions or comments, you can send them through to waste.levy@EPA. We're seeking submissions from industry by the 22nd of next month, and we'll respond to all submissions by the 19th with a view to publish the final guideline in December this year. And we're also proposing, partly off the back of the consultation with the 4 landfills that we've already consulted, we're proposing to have a soft introduction in quarters 3 and 4 voluntarily on your part to use the template in a real world application, and also proposing to mandate the reporting from Q1 next financial year, likely through the inclusion of a condition to require that reporting. And now to actually showcase the template that you all should have, I'll introduce Program Leader, with many of you know, Nadeem Hussain.
Good morning, everyone. This is Nadeem Hussain. As Lee said, that I'm going to explain you the templates to be used for our waste mass balance. So guys, what I'm going to do, I will put some slides for that to explain the templates, and I will encourage you just to open the templates from the link we provided in our email for you if you want to go through the template along with this presentation. If not, that's fine. I will try to explain you guys what that waste mass balance template looks like. So basically, the waste mass balance template is comprised of three main sections. One is the instructions, and the other one is the reference categories, and the third one is the mass balance template. Basically, the instruction sections has the informations about what type of data is required to complete these templates, how many sections are included in the templates, and what they represent. And if you see, there is some more explanation. Is that orange section is mostly this one is for the incoming waste. I will explain these things, these sections more in details when I will go a bit further. But next slide, please. Yeah, so this slide is basically the basic information, the informations about the site. There are two tables we included in the templates. Well, the first table is showing us the this table is showing us the informations about the site, the license number, the landfill names and address, and the period which is reporting for. And this one is bit of important things. This second section is for the quantities of the waste carryover from the previous quarter and carry forward to the next quarter, whether the levy was paid on that or not paid. So more explanations. This thing is bit explanation will come, and I will explain the examples with the numbers to you guys. Next slide, please. So this section is the basically this section of the template will provide you opportunity just to enter the incoming waste quantities and describe the which type of waste it is, how much the waste was received, and what levy rate was applied, and what is the fate of that waste is, whether it will be used for disposal for any operational or construction activities, or the waste will be recovered. So all these things, there would be, once you open that template, you will get the drop down list where you have to select which type of waste it is, and then which type of how you determine the waste, weight of the waste, and which type of levy was applied to that one, and finally for which purpose the waste is received, whether disposal, storage, resource recovery, or for construction or operational activities. Next slides, please. So this slide is basically this is another sections of the templates where you can enter the information about the resource recovery of the waste, whether how much waste is going to for resource recovery out of that, out of your premises, and which type of waste it is and where it is going. It will help us to develop some understanding. That's where that waste and how much waste and which type of waste was gone out for resource recovery. Finally, the yellow sections of this one will allow you to enter the information about the usage of waste used for construction related activities where levy was not paid. For example, how road construction, how road management plan, if it is approved and certain quantities of waste was used for that one. So there, once you enter the quantity in the previous sections of the templates, you have to provide the information that it would be for the whole road constructions things. And these things, this sections you have to, there's no drop down list for this one. And you have to enter the information for the final purpose for that waste. And if you have any reference number, any approval, or any whole road management plans approval number, or that things you can enter there so that we can track that one out. So next slide, please. So once you enter all that information there is our one section we developed it for the summary of the calculations. So basically these sections, the entering data, the summary of the calculations, and there is another section that is the schematical diagrams. All these are interlinked. Whatever the information you entered initially regarding the incoming or outgoing waste or waste used for on-site activities or waste stored, everything is pre-populated and linked in this table. This will be a big table, and this is the first part of the table, which will explain you which type of how much waste in and where it is gone, whether it is disposed of or it is stored in some designated storage areas, or it is sent out for the resource recovery. There is another part for this one. Second part of this summary of the calculation is next slide, please. So second part, this is the second part of this template is the will highlight the balance of the temporary stored material, ultimate balancing of the incoming and outgoing or disposed waste or any waste if it is used for on-site constructions related activities. So basically, this is this input, it will balance out. If you have the 10,000 tons here, it should be 10,000 tons here. So distinct information, whatever you are entering there, first is the templates where you can select the type of the waste and where the levy paid, all that input information that will be populated in the summary of calculation, where you can see and analyze it a bit more of how much data you entered. And this is the second part of that summary of the calculations. Once you can visualize these things, we provided you another easy view for this information you entered is. Next slide, please. That is the schematically diagrams. So this is the basically schematically diagram, which will provide you all the informations. Here, I will try to explain to take a little bit more time just to explain this diagram so that you can understand the basics for the waste mass balance. Where you see the this I is the all related waste entering the permissioned landfill, where O is the waste leaving the permission landfill for resource recovery, and OP is the operational use waste intended for an approved operational use on site, and D is for the waste intended for disposal, where TS1 is the waste where the levy has been paid and temporarily stored on site, subject to allowable resource recovery and in the reporting period or carryover from the previous period when you receive the waste or within the less than 3 years. So there are two provisions for this one, and similarly there is another temporary storage area TS2 where the waste where that is also the carryover of the previous reporting period, where you can include the waste received and where the levy was paid. Basically, this waste can be used either for resource recovery if it is within the 3 months period, or where the levy paid material is used for daily cover. You can include that one here, and where the levy paid haul road material, if it's there, you will declare there. So basically, these two sections are the waste will account for the waste where the levy has been paid, and from these two sections, you can either send out waste for resource recovery and claim the rebate, or you can use it for the either disposal or for daily cover or haul road, where the levy paid material will be used. So none of this material will be, this section does not include the material where the levy is not paid. So we have the other area where we can, this sections, I can say, just be with me. So this sections is basically for the material, whether if you bring some material waste on site and intended to be used for the operational use, or if you bring in some waste where you are not required to store it and will be directly used for the construction activities, that will be counted here. Furthermore, we also have provided some provisions here in the temporary storage area where you can enter the value of the on-site generated material for daily cover or horde or for other activities. There is hand up for Daniel. So,
just sorry, Nadeem. Are
yep.
you using a pointer? Because if you are, I'm not seeing it. So if you're actually indicating on where the inputs are going, as an audience, I'm not seeing it.
Okay, that's
I just wanted to share that with you because you kept it sounded like you were pointing at the different boxes, and
sorry,
I'm not seeing any of that back here. I understand what you're doing, but I just thought I'd share it with you.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Actually, it is not being controlled by me. It is being someone else. So that's why you can't see my pointer there. But I will be more careful just when I will explain that. So this is basically the information which is being used to balance out the total waste input. And if you see this schematical diagrams, there. Yeah. So, so guys, so this one, can you see my pointer now? So this is the basically schematical diagram which will convert the data entered in this previous table will be presented over here. So what we did after this.
Yeah, sorry, Nadeem, let me interrupt you there. It's Matt. I don't think we're still seeing the pointer, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for your patience, everybody, as we're working out the technology here. Yeah, just take your time, Nadeem. Make sure we can see if we get this. We still have a fair bit of time up our sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried taking control, Nadeem? Take
Yeah,
control button at the top.
I did believe.
Or share your screen.
It could be an option if I will share my screen. May I share my screen?
Nadeem, look, if there's tech challenges there or it's a bit hard, why don't you just be a bit more descriptive, perhaps, in terms of which box you're talking about? Maybe just try and do it verbally.
Hey everybody, while Nadim's working this out there, any other questions besides the great one around Mikhail potentially posed around alternate solutions? Any other questions that have come up? I noticed a bit quiet in the chat in regards to questions compared to the multitudes of ones that came in on the levy itself.
I think on the question of alternate solutions, the point being that this may be overly complicated. It's new. I'm not sure that it is. We haven't yet got to the input sheet. This diagram on the screen at the moment won't pertain to all landfills. The input sheet, I think, is a lot clearer where you enter your data and the fate of the waste, and then that data populates this flow diagram. So not all boxes will be populated. I think once industry have a chance over the coming month to review this, provide submissions, and then use it in Q3 and 4, I don't think it is overly complicated, but absolutely interested in industry's views.
Yeah, good point, Lee. By reiterating, this is quite a new approach here in Victoria, and we're definitely keen. Like a lot of it is complicated on first initial look here, but as you get to actually use it and kind of go through the papers and think about it a little bit, we want to get that input and here's some suggestions through that process as well around how it might be improved. Could be better, easier. But as Lee says, I think as we walk through the next couple ones here, might make a bit more sense when you see it in full context as well.
As you can see my screen now.
Yes, Nadeem, but it's in PowerPoint. If you click down,
there you go.
Beautiful.
Great. Thanks everybody for your patience. Nice working, Nadeem.
My apologies, guys. So this is I will try to explain this one a bit more. This is all is the input coming material which will go there. So we have divided that one into basically all these three streams. What the first stream is the waste which is going this temporary storage and where the levy was paid. And this one is the streams where we bring in the material and the levy is not paid, but the material is brought in for the construction or operational activities. There is one stream where the material is brought in and directly used for the operational used. And the last one is where we bring the waste and we are 100% sure it is for disposal. It will go directly here. And the two things I want to explain here, the blue section shows the carryover tonnage from the previous reporting period. And this one, the green one is the waste carry forward to the next quarter periods. I will explain you a bit more when I will go a bit further with the real data. So how it looks like. So this is basically the objective for the mass balance is all the material which is brought in, temporarily stored in S1 and temporarily stored S2, S3 should be balanced with the material used for disposal, any operational use, any resource recovery, or temporarily stored if it is carryover or for the next reporting period. So basically what we did, we provided 3 examples in that templates representing the different scenarios happening in different landfill sites. So I selected one of the scenario just to provide you with more explanations how to use these templates. So this is as I explained you, this is these 2 tables earlier, that the first table will be used just to provide the background information for the site, their license number, site name, address, and the reporting period. And as I told here, these are the carryover material from the previous reporting period where the levy was paid. These are this reporting period. This would be taken forward, and this is the carry forward from the previous year, from the previous reporting period, and this is the carry forward for the next reporting periods. And similar things will happen for the waste where levy was not paid. So that information you can enter here. And next one, as I explained this table before, this is the input data. Once you will click here, you will get a drop down list from where you can select the three options will be there, whether waste in, out, or temporary storage. You can select whatever the waste is, and after that you will go here and you click on this section. Sorry, you click on this one and you will get another drop down list where you will get all type of waste being done, being brought into the sites, so that you can select whatever you want. And similarly for the this is the how you determine the mass of the weight of the waste. And these quantities, you have the numbers that are related with the tonnage of the waste. And this again, levy applied, which type of levy was applied to that respective streams. And finally, you have to select final fate of that waste is disposal, either disposed, temporary stored, operational use, resource recovery, and these things, and operational use and temporary stored here. And I will show you the next sections of this template, that is waste use for the resource recovery. So here in this sections, you can select you will get the drop down list where you can select which type of waste is sent out for the resource recovery. And again, you have to select here which type of waste is used for which purpose for the operational use, where you haven't paid the levy on that. So basically these things you can see these things, this waste sent out for resource recovery is the metal and the green waste. And similarly for cover material used for construction activities and on-site stockpiled or rock. So you can select, there would be drop down list in the actual templates. If you will open it, it will be very easy to use that templates. And the next things will come as I explained, that whatever the data will be entered in the previous two slides, this and this one, all the data will be translated in the summary of the mass balance, where you can physically see the descriptions of the where the data will be representing, and the description of the flow, material fat, and flow labels, what we talk, whether it's A, TS1, TS2, whatsoever it is. And you will get the respective quantities what you entered previously over here. And the second part of this summary table is that it will show you whatever is the informations or how much tonnages are available in the different storage areas. Basically, the purpose for the whole mass balance equation is that the input, these four streams and these three streams should be balanced out. If these are not balanced out, some information is missing. So the last thing is that's whatever you will enter, it will be populated in these schematical diagrams. You can see here, for example, 220 tons material was brought in for resource recovery, while the 340 tons was taken over from the previous quarter where levy was paid. So after that is, and this is the quantity, 340 tons will be taken out for resource recovery. So end of this quarter, 220 tons will be left in this storage area, which will become the this streams in the next reporting period. So similarly for this one, this storage area, this 700 tons was carried over from the previous reporting, and it would be 500 tons will be carried forward for the next quarter for this one. So this sections will explain you, will allow you to enter any information of the waste where levy has been paid but not sent for disposal. If you brought any material which is directly suitable, any waste which is directly suitable for operational uses and doesn't require any storage, so that will be reported over here and it can go straight for the operational use. While this section, this storage area TS3 will be used for the material if you brought in, and you need to store it for a certain time to be used for the operational use. So you can declare that quantity over here. So out of that, for example, at the start of this reporting period, this 500 tons was carried over from the previous reporting period, and 240 tons was used for the operational use, while during the reporting quarter, there is no input to this one. But only all the 24,000 tons which was brought in and not paid levy was taken directly for the operational use. And moreover, 50,000 tons almost will be used directly for disposal, where the levy will be calculated. So where the levy is calculated and paid for. So similarly, whatever the information, in short, I want to tell you that's it looks a little bit maybe difficult at this stage, because it is showing in form of a presentation. But if you will see the actual templates, all these information are interlinked, and you can see all this information in one sheet, and these are very interlinked and very easy to use. So that is pretty much one example. And similarly, if you go to the template, you will find another 2 examples for different scenarios. And the one thing I want, before going to questions, one thing I want to tell you, that's this from January until June, our Levy team will be available just to help you to make understand to and use this table in the real scenarios, and provide us. And if you need any assistance, you can call me, myself, Lee, or Katrina Harris, and we will be happy to help you out either on the phone or to come on the side to provide you a bit more explanation and to familiarize yourself with these templates and this reporting requirements. In this way, you will be able just to provide the actual data from the next financial year. So next time is the questions.
Thanks, Nadeem. Appreciate it. And thanks, everybody, as we sort of worked our way through here. Yeah, great work, Nadeem. That was really well explained, especially when you brought in the pointer to kind of show the flows and how the calculations. I think that last slide really hopefully made it a lot more tangible and visual for people to understand. Look, we really want to just start before we got to give, about 5-6 minutes for questions here. Really, though, this is the start of this exercise with industry in the consultation period. And reporting on this is not going to be due until next year. So we'd really ask that you trial out the template. And as Nadeem suggested, work out, what might be improved, what could be simpler calculations, what approach would you pose to have this happen during that process and with Nadeem's team. And they'd be very keen to take that input on board to really get a product out to industry, that allows the regulations to be met in a way that is as easily as possible for industry operators. So really, let's try that out and give us your thoughts on it. And as I say, we have quite a lot of time up both of our sleeves to get it right. So we're very much going to go in with that approach to get it right with you, to get a product that works for everybody. So we'll kind of just open floor for just a couple of questions, because we don't want to leave you hanging out with us too long. And Daniel, I see your hands up. Thanks, Daniel. Go to you first, please.
Well, Aloha, the Australian Landfill Owners Association has put in a submission only late as yesterday off the early information that I was offered, which was great to receive. But one of the real concerns that I think the whole group will have is that we're continually reminded on everything we submit that if you make a false or misleading statement, you'll be sent to jail for 2 years. The mass balance will have degrees of information that is very, very good, meaning everything that comes in over a weighbridge is weighed, everything that goes out over a weighbridge is weighed. But what transpires on site of winning on-site virgin material, moving out of a stockpile to operational use or disposal is challenging, because you're doing it on a quarterly basis. So you've got to take a snapshot at the end of each quarter. But the challenge is moving materials around the site doesn't give you the same level of accuracy as a certified weighbridge where materials are coming in and going out of the site. So I think a lot of the concern on this mass balance will be driven by you're guilty if you make a false or misleading statement. But how perfect will be the information for the movement of materials around site? Well, you don't have that weighbridge to be able to, you're not going to weigh everything that's moving within your operating complex of cover, material being used for rehab and everything else. So I think that particular fear or that particular concern needs to be one that's addressed as you go through the whole process, to put all the users that are on this group at ease, that whilst they're trying to provide you the best information, a lot of it isn't going to be, to the nearest decimal point of, 0.1 of a tonne.
Will you take that question, Lee, please?
Yep, happy to take that one. Thanks, Daniel. The on-site generated stuff does not attract the levy. It does not need to be weighed. We would like for it to be included in this mass balance reporting, though we are consulting. Whether it's included or not, it should balance. And it's proposed to be estimated, so not weighed, but estimate the volume, perhaps by counting of trucks and then multiply by a density factor. That's currently proposed. And in terms of compliance and enforcement, if that data is what's reported in terms of on-site generated material waste, there won't be compliance and enforcement consequences if that data is erroneous. It's more the waste, the actual waste coming on-site and going off-site, and the fates of those wastes.
Yeah, most people use their best endeavours, but it's just as long as it's viewed as an estimation and a close estimation, I think that's not unreasonable.
Yeah, that's right.
Just one thing before further to Lee, Daniel, we are considering your comments, and our discussions earlier happened on that one. And yesterday I saw your comments as well. So we are seriously thinking how we can accommodate and provide the best informations and facilitate the industry for minimum burden for any estimation, for especially for this data on-site material.
Thanks.
Yeah, good point, Daniel. I think that concern is well addressed, and Lee spoke to that well. We'll have time for one last question for this here. Nino, I see you have your hand up here. Thank you. Nino, the floor is yours for a few minutes if you have a question, if your hand is still up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thanks, Matt.
Good one, easy.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to get back to the waste levy, and I'm sure a lot of people will probably agree with me. Having to not have the calculation presented to you in a format before you can actually submit it is a real issue, because most of the, when the levy is paid or the calculation, my CEO wants to know how much he's liable for. These are very big numbers. And as you can appreciate, in such organisations with the landfill levy, it needs to go through our accounting, our accountants, our other directors. So there is quite a few protocols that go before a landfill levy is paid. So we really need to have that calculation that's spat out prior to one of the directors or the CEO agreeing to it or signing off on it. So I just wanted to reiterate that point. That's something that you guys really need to work on, I believe. That's all I had to say, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Nino. Those lines of approval and the checks and balance process, internally, that organizations and council operators and private businesses, we're aware of that, so we'll endeavor. I think that was addressed earlier a little bit. It's on our list to make sure. Yeah, reiterating that point. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just the last thing the CEO wants is to having to go back and do adjustments.
For sure. Nobody needs that, right? Look, we're going to close off the question time here for the mass balance stuff, really with that notion I just spoke of, to have a test out, get in touch with the team when the questions are going to come once you get into the detail of it. I believe you'll have a lot more worthwhile interaction with our team then. So we appreciate your time with that and help everybody. I'm going to pass back over now to Dan to wrap up the session for us. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Matt. So over the course of this session, we've referenced a number of resources from EPA's website. You can see some of them on the screen there for you. I'd encourage each of you to read each of these in more detail and depth on each of the topics we've covered and share that back within your businesses. As always, please contact us if you've got any queries or if you need help with anything. And finally, thank you for attending today and for working with us as we implement these important changes to our waste framework to better protect the environment and human health. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
We'll make sure we'll get a post email out as well with, especially we dropped the link again to those documents in the chat, but we'll make sure the team gets an email out, hopefully by the end of today or tomorrow, just kind of reiterating those points in the consultation process for this. So thanks, everybody. Speak with you soon.
Thank you for the presentation.